Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside.
I decided to go public and say, for the first time, of anyone of cabinet rank from the G8 group of countries, that UFOs are as real as the airplanes flying over your head, and said it without any restriction whatsoever. They are way ahead of us in medicine, agriculture, and still, I guess, presumably in technology. There's no question the U.S. government took this whole idea of advanced technology very seriously and started back engineering and spending a lot of money on it soon after the crashes at Roswell in 1947. They have a very interesting way of keeping things quiet, and that is everything is on a need to know. So you could be working in a lab, or you could be making some kind of piece of machinery, and you wouldn't know what it was for. And then the guy that gets it, he would only know what it fits into. And this goes all the way up the ladder.
I do have news directly from the President of the United States that was just shared with me in the Oval Office. From President Trump directly, an update on the New Jersey drones. After research and study, the drones that were flying over New Jersey in large numbers were authorized to be flown by the FAA for research and various other reasons. Many of these drones were also hobbyists, recreational, and private individuals that enjoy flying drones. In time, it got worse due to curiosity. This was not the end.
It's February 24th, and this has been happening all over the world the past few days. But look, you need to believe everything that you were told. Of course, it's space debris and SpaceX. And somehow, every day there's a rocket just exploding in space. We have seen it over Colombia, we've seen it over Argentina, we've even seen it over China. Remember this one that happened after the main one, probably about a week or two beforehand? And I was talking about how if it was like a SpaceX or a rocket crash, it would be kind of going to the ground at least a little bit of an angle and not going with the horizon for thousands of miles. At some point, you guys have to admit, this is really, really weird that this is happening every single day in the sky over our head. I don't know about y'all, but this really makes me believe there's some kind of heavenly war going on. Oh, and this is also happening right now. What in the world is this? Guess where it is? Turkey. And while we have all this space debris going on, we have these spacemen posting about how we need to go ahead and go to Mars. I do wonder if it's a ploy for the galactic wars that are coming. Remember, I told you they'd be using SpaceX to cover the paths of the fallen angels. And also that Moonchild is supposed to bring forth a galactic war that inevitably will take out the Dark Brotherhood. Don't think it's random, because everything going on right now connects. And of course, there's rockets exploding every single day.
Hey friends, so let me explain how a lot of these glowing lights in the sky that we call UFO and UAP are actually just disembodied consciousnesses visiting us from faraway places. Okay, so say I want to take my conscious awareness and I want to astral travel throughout the universe, different dimensions in space and time. I can do this safely by creating what's called a Mekabas. Essentially, very rough, simple form here, you can take two pyramids, one pointing up, one pointing down, rotate them in opposite directions, and create what's called a Mekabas, a light vehicle. And you can place your consciousness in there, your awareness, and you can move it anywhere you want around the universe, okay? Physical and non-physical. So say you're doing this and you find a little physical world somewhere out there, kind of like an Earth, right? And you dip down in there and you see some folks, some little alien folks. You're like, hey, those little alien folks look nice. I'm gonna dip down there and communicate with them. You come down and you're telepathically communicating with them. You can ask them, say, hey, what do you see? What do you see when you see me? And they'll say, basically like this glowing amorphous light source, okay? And now at that point, you can project your likeness into their consciousness and they'll see something like an apparition, like a glowing humanoid form looking thing that kind of has a resemblance to you. But that's what they see, okay? Now, let's reverse it. what do we see? So many people describe seeing these glowing amorphous balls of light and light sources in the sky. They can telepathically communicate with them. They can consciously sort of communicate with them and sort of control them, you know, in a way you can at least like ask questions and you'll get blinks and answers and that kind of stuff, right? So there's a consciousness connection. There's a telepathic communication going on. And we see this amorphous glowing ball of light in the sky that seems sentient and intelligent and aware and under its own sentient, intelligent, you know, control. Okay, that's the exact same thing that when we do this, when we put ourselves in Mekabas light vehicles and we travel around astrally in the universe and we interact with other physical beings, that's what they describe. That's what they see. Because at that point, you're a non-physical being. You're just a disembodied consciousness in a light vehicle that is in a physical place. So that physical being just sees light, just pure light energy. That's what you are. And that's what I think a whole lot, not all of it. I mean, the phenomenon is very complex, multi-layered, but a lot of what we see, these amorphous lights in the sky that seem to be under intelligent control, they seem to be sentient and self-aware, they seem to be conscious, but they don't have any sort of physicality to them. That's what it is. It's these advanced higher intelligences that are using things like Mekabas light vehicles to safely travel just their consciousness around the universe in all the different layers, all the different dimensions of time and space. And when they come here and we look at them with our physical eyeballs in this physical plane, what do we see? Just light. That's it. But behind that light, within that light, is pure consciousness. Sentient, aware, intelligent consciousness. That's what I think. Let me know. What do you think? Have a beautiful day. Peace. Check this out.
There's a scientific study by a man called Cleve Baxter. He took cells from a human, put them in a petri dish, and moved them 40 miles away.
They began to show powerful images to the person that had donated the cells. Graphic images of war, destruction, comedy, humor, sexual images, anything to elicit a genuine emotional response. The instant that the person had the emotion, his cells acted as if they were still in his body having the same emotion.
The cells 40 miles away show the electrical activity of that response. What's the point? This person's cells are connected to this person, but they're 40 miles away.
How did the information reach, or did it? And the answer is, it didn't have to travel. The field is holographic. And what that means is what happens in one part of the field influences other parts of the field in the same instant. And this is deeply, deeply profound.
Our thoughts are not contained in our head. Our thoughts are broadcast to the field. If I put wires on your head, that's called EEG, electroencephalograph, I can read your brain. But there's a new technology called magnetoencephalograph. The probe doesn't touch the head. The probe is out here. I'm reading your brain activity from out here.
Okay, let me blow your mind too. Your body is just a drone, and your consciousness is actually operating it from a quantum field. Like a cosmic Wi-Fi controlling your every move. Sounds wild, right? But it's not sci-fi. It's actually a new theory from Frederico Faggin, the man who helped invent the first CPU.
I explained this by saying, imagine that you control a drone. You know, we are a body, controls a drone. So now the drone looks at that reality where it is, sends me information, and I get the conscious experience of what the drone is seeing. That conscious experience is not in my body, it's in my consciousness. And based on that, and based on my free will, I'll tell the drone what to do. The drone doesn't know anything.
So most scientists say that consciousness comes from the brain, like a computer running software. But Faggin and Professor Giacomo D'Ariano say no, consciousness exists first. Your brain is just the receiver, and your body, it's a remote-controlled quantum drone. Even crazier, they argue that quantum fields are conscious and have free will, meaning your body is just a machine guided by these conscious quantum forces. So basically, you're a quantum pilot flying a biological machine. If this theory's right, it could rewrite everything we know about the mind, quantum mechanics, and even free will. Even Faggin says we might soon be able to actually test this. I'll put the details of the interview in the description. Check it out. I highly recommend it. Let me know. What do you think? Does this blow your mind too?
There's something deeply wrong with reality. You can feel it, can't you? The air tastes different, like a memory instead of a sensation. The sky doesn't look real anymore, like a projection flickering between dimensions. Time itself feels broken, days blur, events repeat. History rewrites itself while no one notices. What if we've already died? What if this isn't life but the afterlife? What if the world ended a long time ago and we just never woke up? Every ancient culture, every religion, every prophecy speaks of the same thing. A world that was once real but was shattered, corrupted, or lost. The Bible calls it the fall, when mankind was cast from paradise into a false reality of pain, suffering, and endless cycles. The Gnostics called it the Demiurge's kingdom, a prison designed to keep souls trapped in material illusion, unable to return to the source. The Tibetan Book of the Dead warns of the fake light, a trick at the moment of death, where souls are deceived into reincarnating instead of escaping. The Mayans believed we exist in the Fifth Age, a recycled version of the world rebuilt after previous realities were destroyed. So what if we already died and someone keeps bringing us back? What if Earth isn't a planet but a machine? A soul harvesting system running on loops of recycled consciousness? And what if the real war isn't between nations, but between those who want to keep us trapped and those trying to wake us up? They flood our minds with conflict, devices, and illusions of choice. They pacify us with scripted ideologies, stage power struggles, and a system designed to keep us chasing shadows. But the greatest deception, they've erased our memory. Time is an illusion. They go by many names. The Anunnaki in Sumerian texts, the gods who descended from the sky to rule humanity, the Nephilim of the Bible, the hybrid offspring of fallen angels and mortal women, wiped out by the Great Flood, the Watchers in the Book of Enoch, divine beings who weren't supposed to interfere, but instead gave humans forbidden knowledge, the Archons of Gnostic belief, parasitic entities who feed on human suffering, trapping souls in an endless cycle of birth, death, and forgetfulness. What if these beings aren't gods at all, but architects of the prison? What if they created time itself, a looped construct that keeps us reliving the same cycle over and over? What if death isn't an escape, but a reset button, forcing us back into the system? Something broke. The Mandela effect. Collective memories of a history that no longer exists. Deja vu, echoes of past lives, fragments of a memory trying to resurface. Time slips, people vanishing, then returning with impossible knowledge. CERN and the Large Hadron Collider, are they accidentally shifting us between realities or trying to punch through the walls of the prison? Time was never meant to flow this way, not in a straight line, not in cycles that erase everything before them. What if the reason we feel like the world is ending is because it already did, and we've just been stuck here, reliving the collapse on repeat? The governments of the world are preparing us for alien disclosure. But what if the beings they are about to introduce aren't aliens at all? What if the extraterrestrials are the Nephilim, the Anunnaki, the Watchers, returning under a new disguise? What if they claim to have created us? What if they offer ascension, eternal life, or merging with AI, or to trap us in a new kind of prison? The Book of Revelation warns, "For false Christs and false prophets shall arise and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible they shall deceive even the very elect." Matthew 24:24. If this is a prison, there must be a way out. Some say lucid dreaming is the key, a way to break free from the scripted illusions of this reality. Some say prophetic dreams are warnings, messages from beyond the simulation telling us how to escape. Some say the demons in sleep paralysis aren't hallucinations, but prison guards keeping us from leaving the dream. And then there's Jesus. He spoke of a kingdom not of this world. He cast out demons, beings that seemed obsessed with controlling human bodies. He defied death, shattering the very cycle that keeps us trapped. Is this why the rulers of this world fear his name? Because he was the first to escape, and they don't want us to follow. People are waking up, the illusion is breaking down, and those who created the trap are desperate to keep it running. That's why. AI is being pushed because a digital reality is even harder to escape. CERN is still searching because they know the prison is collapsing. History keeps changing because they are rewriting the script, trying to patch the holes. But we are remembering, we are seeing the glitches, we are feeling the wrongness of time, we are recognizing the lies, because the final question is coming. When the illusion crumbles, when the architects of this world reveal themselves, when the choice is laid before you, will you believe the lie and remain in the trap? Or will you remember who you really are and break free? Because the exit has always been there, but you have to be willing to see it.
that sinkhole that ate this Illinois soccer field happened to your house, it would be more probable than what they found in these vases. These are ancient Egyptian vases made out of granite. Some engineers saw this and said, hey, those are too precise, so they measured them. They were too precise for mechanical measurements, so they laser scanned them. The laser scan wasn't precise enough, so then they CT scanned them with an X-ray. CT scans are micron precise. That is a human hair. CT scans get that precise. You can see that level of detail. Here's one of them. Green means that if it was going on an airplane, it would be considered perfect. If I gave you a pencil with a micron thin tip, a perfectly straight line would be green. If you're off by 3 microns, that's yellow. These are designed using circles. The pattern is based on sacred geometry. It's called radial traversion. It just means that every curve on that vase is a harmonic ratio, like music. They tested the mathematically perfect pattern on a digitally designed vase. The difference between the perfect digital one and the Egyptian one was 9 microns. They then found out that the units they were working with were based on the speed of light. I'll let Ben explain this.
And this is very interesting, as it means that the base unit seems to be a simple whole number subdivision of the speed of light in a vacuum.
All of this got a harsh reaction from the archaeological community for a very good reason. What they have to say they used based on that story is now proven false with data. Now, Flint uses these alabaster vases as an example. I literally just saw these at the Egyptian Museum. But those are not even close to as precise as this machined modern vase that they compared the Egyptian one to. They date these as pre-dynastic, so using only copper. But before they built the greatest monument of all time, they were able to produce hundreds of thousands of these at aircraft-grade precision. So saying that they resorted to slavery and just worked really hard makes them look worse, while saying they were more advanced immediately goes that direction. Just to make this clear, the Hindu, Egyptians, and the Mayans built their shit. No aliens, just these aliens, who told this story, took their stuff, in a time when horses were high-tech. Please go watch Ben's video for yourself. It's an hour and a half with all the evidence. And watch the counter evidence from people like Flint. What those people left will speak for itself.
Most people don't know about the Grand Canyon's greatest and darkest conspiracy. They hide that conspiracy in plain sight. It's rife with Egyptian artifacts and geology. Where is the evidence for such outlandish claims, you may ask? The national park took a page out of Egyptian mythology when they named the formations. After a short little hike from the North Rim, you can catch a glimpse of Juno Temple, Jupiter Temple, Apollo Temple, and Osiris's Temple. Would I find evidence myself of such outrageous claims? The true story of a civilization now lost. The artifacts that they found at the Grand Canyon had an Egyptian origin. They found shrines, they found mummies, they found gold, they found temples. This information has been suppressed by the Smithsonian. What exactly are they hiding? It doesn't stop there either. 1920s, when the Grand Canyon was going to go from a monument to a national park, President Harding went on a voyage of understanding trip to try and understand what exactly was going on at these national parks. He couldn't quite understand. It was on this very trip that he died. His illness was treated with arsenic. Was he treated or poisoned or assassinated for trying to understand what was the Grand Canyon and its Egyptian artifacts? As I was getting to the bottom of the Grand Canyon, I felt like I was getting closer to the bottom of solving this riddle of what the Grand Canyon really was. There must be some Egyptian mythology hidden in the no-fly zones on the map. There are so many places in the Grand Canyon that are banned to the public or you can't even go to. If you veer off course, the authorities will come and get you. And there's even places in the Grand Canyon that's forbidden to drink water from. The forbidden fountain of youth, or to taste the tree of knowledge. It was in the 1920s. The government coincidentally decided they wanted to survey the Colorado River in the Grand Canyon. And coincidentally, on this infamous boating expedition, President Harding passed away, and they named a rapid after him to send a signal they would control the narrative of the Grand Canyon. There are far too many coincidences for the Grand Canyon and what happened in the 1920s when they covered it up. Egyptian artifacts and temples? Could these all just be theories? Just conspiracies? Or maybe the Grand Canyon is just what it is. A great, grand, beautiful place.
The crazy story of Mel's Hole. So in 1997, famed radio host Art Bell from Coast to Coast receives a fax from a guy named Mel Waters. In the fax, Mel tells him about this crazy hole that he has on this piece of property he owns. So Art calls Mel to get the whole story. So Mel Waters, which is a pseudonym, lives supposedly on some rural land in Ellensburg, Washington. He claimed that on this property there was a mysterious hole that had been there since anyone could remember. For years and years, the neighbors and Mel have been throwing things in it, trash, and it had never filled up. The hole was 9 feet 9 inches in diameter and had a rock wall built around it. Mel noticed some weird things about the hole. 1, there was no echo when you yelled down into it. 2, animals stayed far away from it. His dog would not go anywhere near it and birds wouldn't land on the edge. Mel thought it was super strange that the hole never filled up no matter how much junk they threw down in it, so he decided to test to see how deep it was. He took a spool of fishing line specifically for sharks and a 1-pound weight and started lowering it into the hole. When he had gotten to 1,900 feet, he put a roll of lifesavers on the line to see if he would hit water. If he had hit water, then when he pulled the line up, the lifesavers would be melted. He keeps buying spools and spools of bulk shark fishing line and keeps lowering it into the hole. And at the time that he first talked to Art, he had put 80,000 feet of fishing line down this hole. That's over 15 miles. The deepest hole in the entire world today is 7.6 miles. There was also some crazy neighborhood lore about Mel's Hole. One of the neighbors had an old hunting dog that passed away, and the guy actually threw it down the hole. A couple days later, he sees that same dog wandering around town with the same collar and same tags. It was his dog, supposedly. Another neighbor went to throw some trash in the hole in the middle of the night and saw a black pillar of darkness shooting out from the hole. So this just seems like a crazy wild story, but 2 days later, Mel calls Art back. So the day after being on the phone with Art, Mel goes to his hole just to make sure there's nobody messing around with it. When he gets to his property, there are military there. They have his property barricaded and says that he can't go on his property because a plane crashed. Mel didn't really believe the plane crash story and kept trying to push to get on his property. And the head guy in charge told him that if he didn't drop it, they would find a lab on his property, and that would be the end of that. He also got a phone call from his real estate agent saying that he had a buyer for this property, even though it was not for sale. The call ends with Mel being really freaked out, and we don't hear again from Mel until 2001. So it turns out that the military made a deal with Mel to lease his property for $250,000 a month. So Mel goes to Australia and opens a wombat rescue. After a couple years, Mel comes back to visit and he's helping his nephew move. He gets on a Greyhound bus to go visit his nephew. And while on the bus, a argument breaks out. And because of this altercation, they pull the bus over, the police are there, everybody has to get off of the bus. And Mel says that's the last thing he remembers. 12 days later, He wakes up on the streets of San Francisco. He has no identification, he has needle marks in his arms, and he has no molars in his mouth. He gets a hold of his nephew comes and gets him, and then he calls Art. Mel's down on his luck because the lease got taken away after his divorce. Now Mel has nothing to his name, not even molars, and his ex-wife is getting paid for the hole in the property. And that's where the story ends. We never hear from Mel again. We don't know if he's a real person or if the hole actually ever existed. The actual interview is absolutely fascinating, and if you want to listen to the entire thing, just look up Mel's Hole, Art Bell, on any podcast.